Hello everyone, and welcome to the update to my Berserker build that I was working on the other day. That was working on building towards Frostblade's single target. So there's been a few updates with the build since then. I will kind of go over those at the end of the video. If you're not interested in seeing any of this stuff, I will put the path of building down in the description below for the updated version of this build. But pretty much the big changes we've done since then is we've added a little more life to the build. Obviously we have about 1,000 more life than what we did before. But I also did a couple other changes to the build which I'll go over later, or obviously if you're going to the path of building you'll see that there. As always feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe on the video, and if you could do me a favor, go follow me over at twitch.tv. You can catch these builds live, or you can just come interact with me, all that fun stuff. But right here, what I have presented is kind of the clear speed with the build. We're currently doing a tier 14 map. I have Delirium going obviously, and then I have a bunch of beasts, all that good stuff. Survivability from the Warcry is pretty good at this point. We get roughly 1100 life regen per second every single time we Warcry, and our Warcry cooldown is low enough that we are able to pretty much have that life regen sustain about 100% of the time. About the only time we might drop it is if we go ahead and refresh our mana regen Warcry. Which that one's not really too necessary, but that is a nice damage boost that we will always be using going into bosses. As you can see, our clear speed is still pretty good. We were able to take down most of the red beasts without too much issue. And obviously popping Berserk is also going to give us a pretty big DPS boost. I want to go into the boss that way without the Delirium up. That way you guys can kind of see what the single target is. In other leagues, what they might be. I'm still working on getting the single target there. Obviously with the Lion Roar Flask, it pushes mobs away, which isn't too much of an issue, but it can be annoying. And then here I just wanted to show a clip of the regen in action. We obviously just go into lab, we can walk over all the traps. Here in a second, yeah, I just jump all around with those going, jump on the traps. Nothing really does too much damage to us as long as it's a lower damage source. And then here we're going to go ahead take on Argus to kind of showcase more of the single target. Obviously I'm still working on the build. As you can see, we took a pretty big hit right there, and we were able to pretty much regen it all back fairly quickly. And then here will just be the third Izero. Again, not really too much issues with this, but just kind of showcasing that the single target is there. It is a work in progress. I am still using 2 1 Exalt foils, so obviously there is still room for improvement. Both my foils are around 350 DPS, and here we are going to see a Cortex. Now keep in mind I did not plan on running this Cortex whatsoever, but I did find it in the map, and I decided to go ahead and try to brute force my way through it on my Berserker. Spoiler alert, I do fail at this, which does kind of feel bad, but I thought, you know what, I might as well go ahead and give it a try. I have never tried to do Cortex on a melee build. I've only ever done Cortex on my minor builds in past leagues, which those I don't have any issue with the fight just because I know the fight so well. I've also done it on totem builds, so pretty much the only builds I've ever done Cortex on have been on the less active play styles, where you pretty much get to focus 100% on dodging, and you don't have to worry about continuously having to try and keep up your damage. So the fight did not end well in my favor, but I figured it would still be a good showcase to kind of show you guys how the build is coming along. Like I said, single target is still a work in progress. Clear speed obviously is plentiful. Most packs we can literally just obliterate within a couple swings of our swords. Keep in mind, like I said, these are 300 Fizz DPS swords. So there is definitely about another 100 fizz DPS room for improvement, and if you're a real big baller, you'll go for the 500 fizz DPS swords. I just haven't gotten around to upgrading those yet. Those do add about another 500,000 DPS to the build on the 400 fizz DPS swords. So if you do have the budget for it, I do definitely recommend going for the higher cost weapons, because you are going to see a quite significant increase in your DPS with those. But I just haven't gotten around to it. This build it's not super budget, but I want to say this build is roughly less than 10 exalts, which I would say is more than doable for most people. Especially if you're not super hardcore player who plays 24/7, I would be able to say that this build is for you. The most expensive gear pieces obviously are going to be a 6-link, and it doesn't even have to be an elder chest like what I have. You can easily do this with a regular 6-link. Really all the 6-link does is add a little bit of extra crit chance to the build, and you can always build that on the tree anyways with cluster jewels and whatnot. But that's just what I go ahead and do with the build. I will actually go ahead and shut up for the duration of this fight so you can kind of check it out. Like I said, it doesn't end well in my favor, but you will kind of see that this build is able to hold its own as a Frostblades build, which is, I would say, quite impressive, because Frostblades is not meant to be a single target skill whatsoever. But as you can see, even with minor investment, you can still kind of pull it off for the most part. And as you can see, I failed right there because, like I said, I don't usually have to stand so close to enemies to get my DPS off. But given that I've never done this fight with melee, I didn't realize it was going to be an issue. I thought maybe I could out-regen it, but that's not the case. So I will go ahead and shut up for the rest of this fight, and I will pick back up at the end here, and you will be able to hear me talk more about the build and a couple of the minor changes that I did to it. So I will be back in a few. Alright, so this is where we are currently at with the build. Really nothing has changed since the last video. Obviously, we are just leveled up a few times. We are now level 92 on this character. One sec. So we are now level 92 on this character. The only real change that we've made is we bought this ring. I've been trying to roll it so that it has frostbite on hit. That'll probably be the biggest benefit to our build, but I decided to just go ahead and stick with the rolls that I had for now. I'll probably change those at some point, that way I do get that frostbite on hit, because that is going to be a huge damage boost for us. Either that or Tomb Fist with elemental weakness on hit would also be a very good upgrade for this build. Then I also made one small change to the passive tree. The reason I made the change is because of the Pantheon I decided to go with, which I'll go over here in a second. I decided to switch from Blitz down over here to Rite of Ruin. This is actually going to make us attack a little bit slower, but we are going to be hitting up quite a bit harder. I believe, if I remember right, this added about 200,000, 150 to 200,000 DPS to the build. So overall this one's better, and it's going to be better for survivability as well, because if we do stop taking damage over time, and we're not currently like regenning or anything like that, we are going to benefit from 50% increased recovery rate of life and energy shield if you've stopped taking damage over time recently. So that will increase our nice little regen that we already get here. That'll increase it. I believe it goes up to 1300. So I mean, and then this is also going to count for pretty much anything, whether it be ground degen, if you're fighting Awakener, for example, if you're in the void areas, Shaper as well. It's just going to be a pretty big quality of life for us, because obviously with the Berserker node we're going to be taking damage over time, and we stop taking that, which means, like, for example, we stop building rage. If we're like degenning rage, obviously we are going to benefit from that. Berserker is also a way to proc this, because we are going to be losing rage for each second. I believe, let's see, we would still be gaining rage, I guess, but we are going to be losing it a lot quicker. So really we just have to stop attacking for a few seconds. But other than that, we are still rocking two 1 Exalt jeweled foils. I believe this one was 1.2, this one was about 1 Exalt. Amulet is the same still, and I will put the path building down in the description below for the updated version of this. I believe, if I remember right, we are sitting at roughly, so without Berserk or any of our flasks up, we're sitting at 1.3 million Shaper DPS. Oh, sorry. 940,000 Shaper DPS, so that's still a work in progress. However, if we do pop our Berserk, that is going to be sitting us at 1.3 million Shaper DPS, and then obviously once you pop your flasks as well and get all of those going, you're going to be sitting at 2.3 million Shaper DPS. And this is with Frost Blades, so still work in progress, but we are getting there. Hope you enjoyed the update video, and I'll see y'all guys next time. Later.